scared of things not sticking, so they never try. Whereas it sounds like you're the opposite, where you're like, well, I don't care if it doesn't try. I'm willing to give it a go. Where does that inner confidence, that inner ability to say, hey, it's okay, come from?
I don't care about failure at all. I don't care. And I never did. I think when I was younger, I didn't understand what failure was. Like when you're, when you're 6, when you're 7, when you're 12, there's not many people to let down. You know what I mean? You let down Timmy at school. He's your friend. Sorry, Timmy. But you're not thinking about that. And I just remember from the beginning, like my mom was like, I wanted to drop out of school. And, my mom was raising me alone, and I was probably 15, 16 at the time. And I was like, Mom, I know what I want to do. She's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, the music stuff. Like, I'm so into it. And I know, and I looked at her and I go, I know I'm going to be the biggest in the world. And she was just like, what do you, and I've asked my mom, like later in life, like, how did you like trust me in my journey? And she always said that she had dreams that she never got to try in her life. And a lot of people are just way too scared to take the jump. A lot of people may have, I'm sure everyone in this room, anyone listening has a little something where they're like, oh, I really like that. But they're scared. They're like, I want to post videos of me cooking online. No one will like it. My friends will make fun of me. I sing in the shower. Like no. Because we're taught to just follow suit and do whatever you're supposed to do. You report to your boss, but it doesn't have to be like that. Like if you want to try to be like a musician, an entrepreneur, whatever, it's scary. And like, I'm sure you've had moments like that where you're like, yo, what am I doing? But if you do try, I believe that if you keep pushing yourself and you keep trying, you're going to succeed. And I always tell people this, it may not be in what you start with, like when I started, I thought I was going to be the biggest rap artist in the world. And am I a rapper now? No. And then I moved into producing, and then I moved into songwriting, and then it's come full circle now where I'm like an artist of some sorts again. And I think you just jump in and just try something. Just try, and who cares if you're gonna fail? Who cares if you fail? I don't understand. That's the thing I don't understand. It's just, you just get up and you do it again. I have amnesia. The second I fail, I'm like, the next day I wake up, I'm like, all right, let's do it again.
That's an amazing mindset. So we share something in common already. We both grew up wanting to be famous rappers.
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah.
No.
That was like my passion, like poetry, spoken word, writing lyrics. Like all I listened to was hip hop and rap growing up. Like if you asked me at 16 years old what I wanted to be, that's what I wanted to be. And it's so interesting because today I feel I use the same skills that I wanted to use then, but in a completely different way.
Yeah.
I still write. I write books instead of records. Yeah. I teach meditation, which includes music, it includes cadence, it includes rhyme often, but not in the way that a rapper would. Yeah. And I'm using spoken word constantly to get messages out into the world, but in a different way. And so I love what you just said about that idea of how you actually may succeed, but in a way completely different to what you originally dreamed of.
I hope it goes full circle for you. I need to hear the Jay Shetty rap tape. What was your rap name?
Oh God, I don't know if I need to go that far.
Okay.
It was embarrassing, but I'll tell you later.
Okay.
I'll tell you privately. Yeah. I'll tell you privately.
Is Jay Shetty your real name?
Yes.
It's that's the perfect rap
Is
name.
it?
Yeah, Jay Shetty sounds like a fire rapper.
Really?
Yeah, from like East London.
Okay. I'm from North London, so not far.
All right.
Yeah, not far. Okay, cool. I like it. But no, I really appreciate what you're saying there. And I think that amnesia to failure, wow, like I love that idea of having amnesia with failure. Can you give me a time, was that always the case, or was there a failure that like did kind of pierce that veil? It never has. I can see from your face.
No, I remember when I was going to quit music one time right before I made it, my mentor passed away. He took his own life, and I was really young. It was one of my best friends, and I'm probably like 18. And I remember like sitting in my bed, and I was like crying. I like didn't understand, it was one of the first times that somebody who wasn't supposed to die died. I've had like, I had lost my grandmother and lost my grandfather, but it was like the first time in my life where like someone that like I really knew and really touched me. And I talked to them the day before they died. And it's like, I remember like that hitting me like so hard in a way that I didn't know was even possible. Like, I'd been sad. But I remember sitting there in bed and I was just like, I'm just gonna quit. I was like, I gotta quit making music. And then in that very same moment, like my head flipped and I was just like, no, you can't. You gotta like take on what this dude started. Cause he was also a musician and he didn't get he was well known and he was a hero to me, but he didn't get where I think he deserved to. And I remember being like, I gotta do this. Like, I gotta, like, he would want me to be doing this. And that was like the only time where it wasn't even failure. It was like the only time where I like really questioned things. But don't get me wrong. Every time I do something good in life, I'm questioning. But it's like a different feeling. I don't know if you have this, but I'll have a number one song, like a number one song. It's the biggest song in the whole world. And I'll like look in the mirror and I'll be like, oh, that's the last one. Like, definitely not going to have another number one song again. Not saying I'm like scared of the failure. I'm just like, oh, that's just like the last one. That's what I did. Or something really good will happen in my life. And I'm like, oh, I'll never recreate that again. But in the same breath, I'm like, let's go. Like, I'm like, let's keep rolling, And I've tried to do this thing lately in the last like 5 or 10 years where I really like take in my achievements. Cause for a while, I never thought of them. I would just keep going. Like when it was time, they'd be like, oh, your song's number one. I'd be like, okay, that's cool. What are we doing next week? And I figured out like, it's okay to do that. It's okay to like take a breath and be like, yo, we just did this shit. Like, this is tight. Like, we did this. This is great. And yeah, I'm trying to do that more. And failure, like, no, I've never had one of those times because whenever I do fail, I'll sit and obviously like I'll sit there and I'll be like, this didn't work how I wanted it to. But so many times have been the opposite where I was like, this will never work. And then it's big. So it's like, I feel like it always evens out.
Yeah.
And you only have one other choice. It's like your only choice is just to keep going. What are you supposed to do? Just be like, oh, it didn't work. No, get up and you do it again.
Yeah, I've got so many questions. I want to dive into so much that you said. So rewinding with your mentor, how did you first, and I'm so sorry to hear, thank you for sharing with us, such a challenging event. And I lost my mentor 4 years ago. He passed away from stage 4 brain cancer during the pandemic. So I couldn't go back to see him because I couldn't take a flight. And so I couldn't be at his funeral. So, it was super rough for me. It was more recent, but how did you meet your mentor and how did you form a bond? I think a lot of successful people have mentors, they have guides, they have teachers, they have coaches. But then sometimes when you're listening to a conversation, you're like this, you're like, I want someone to be my mentor, but I don't know where to start. I don't know how to find them. Like, what does that mean? Like, how did you connect?
I've had so many mentors. I have mentors every day. I'm a mentor to people, but sometimes my mentees are my mentor. Like you always got to be open to just listening and learning. Every day I learn something. I was in the studio yesterday with a guy who was one of my mentees. Like the way I got to tell you that story later. That's insane. I'll go to that. I'll tell that after. First one is I met my mentor. This is when he was like my second or third mentor. I met a lot of my really important mentors in my life when I was about 13. I was a musician. I was traveling for music at the time. I had gotten like some buzz and MySpace was a thing.
Yeah, okay? I remember MySpace.
And I had somehow created a profile where I had a bunch of followers, okay? So I don't even remember how I did it, but I was a kid. I used to do it in the library at school. And there was this guy, he was a producer. I was obsessed with him. I messaged him, the equivalent of DM today. Yeah. And I remember messaging him and I was like, I love your stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then no response. And I was like, oh, I love you, like, please, blah, blah, blah. No response. Then I saw like a few weeks later, he was advertising. He was like, I have studio time available. It's like, $500 or something. And I remember just being like, okay, the only way I'm going to meet this guy is if I get the studio time. So I say, I'm interested in the studio time. He says, great, come to New York and meet me here. He had no idea where I was. I drove to New York and we drove like 4 hours to New York. I get to New York, I get in with him. The first thing I say is, I'm like, I don't really need studio time. I just want to talk to you. Please, I'll do anything. I just want to work with you. I'll do whatever you say. But then he was just like, this was insane. He said, I'm leaving this weekend. I need my studio booked the whole weekend. It's $850 for the 2 days. You need to book it. If you can book it, I'll let you work for me.
Wow.
I called every single person I know. I spent I had like a few $100. Then like I would like beg my friends for money. I had like knew a few rappers at the time that wanted studio time. And I like figured it out. And he was just like, he got back. I did it like, I just did it in the nick of time. And he was just like, all right, you can work. You start next week. And I would drive up every weekend from Virginia to work with him from when I was like 16, 17. And we created this bond, and it was like, he was tough on me. It was like, he was like not an easy guy. Like I remember like I walked in and I had a hard drive filled with all of my music. Okay. Everything I had been making. And he like took it, he listened to it, he ejected it, and then he threw it out the window. He threw my hard drive out the window, broke into a million pieces, no more hard drive. And he was like, not good enough, start again. What? And it was like, yeah, he was like super sensei. It was like Karate Kid. And I like hated him in the moments for it, but he taught me so many things that like I learned, and taught me things not to do as a mentor. And it was a really special time. And now I just want to jump to this. Okay.
Yeah, please. Yeah, go on. I love it. Let it flow.
So I'm, this is, I don't know, almost 10 years ago now, maybe 8 years ago. And I'm playing poker at a friend's house. And my friend puts me on her story, her Instagram story. And the next day she comes to me and she said, hey, my friend's son saw you on my story, and apparently you're like a big deal in music. And she was just like, you have to have him come work for you. And I was like, what? She was like, yeah, you have to have him come work for you. I was like, I don't need anyone else. I already have assistants, interns. And they were like, no, you have to. And this lady is like you don't get to have a choice. So I was like, all right, I'll meet him. So this kid comes in. He's 15 years old. He's like, like everything, like he's just so excited. And he like was so sweet, and he reminded me of me when I was a kid. He was like, I'll do anything, I'll work for you, blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, come work for me. He comes and works for me. I still like am spending a lot of time in New York at the time. And so I don't see him. He's just like building a studio for me and has never even met me besides that one day.
Wow.
But he does it for like a year. Then like I finally come back to LA, and I'm like, all right, you ready to come into some recording studios? And he was like, yeah. I'm so excited. So like, first week, first 3 sessions, his first session is The Weeknd. His second section is Travis Scott. And like his third session was like Maroon 5. So it's like he's getting thrown into it. So I remember we're at the first session and I'm just like, be cool, blah, blah, blah. It's The Weeknd. And The Weeknd's in there, and we're like all in a room, and we're just like singing into microphones, like we're chilling. And he's like, I know his mind's blown. Weeknd's his favorite artist at the time. And I remember when no one's looking, he like sneaks a picture, and he accidentally has his flash on. So it goes, and it has the noise too. And so it was like, and when it did it, he went, and he threw his phone. and somehow The Weeknd didn't notice. And like, I pulled him aside after, and I'm like, dude, you can't do that. Blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, he's in high school, and I say, hey, I was in the middle of making Ed Sheeran's Divide album, and I was producing the whole thing. And I was like, I need some help on the road. If I talk to your school and get you off, will you come? And he was like, yeah, of course. Took him on the road for like 2 weeks. Mine was blown. Then, he starts going to NYU Clive Davis School of Music. And I have another opportunity. I talk to his teachers. I take him on the road for like a month. We're on tour with Halsey. Then he's coming back to work for me now, okay? We've never talked about him making music at all. And we're sitting there one day. It's late at night. And he said, my therapist said he's going to stop working with me if I don't play you my music. I said, what do you mean you make music? And he's like, yeah, I make music. I was like, why didn't you ever play for me? He's like, I was so scared. I was trying to get better, blah, blah, blah. He plays me some songs. They're terrible. They're awful. But like I can hear something in him. And I know he's so, in music, so much of it is like getting an artist to feel comfortable, getting them to believe, getting them to, so much of it is your personality. And he had that. He had the it factor. I saw when he was with like artists, he knew how to talk to them. He knew how to make them feel good, just like getting them food, everything. And, he spent years just seeing how I did it with artists. And I decided to sign him. I was like, I'm going to sign you. And he went on this journey, and now he's one of the biggest music producers in the world. I mean, last year he won, best record at the Grammys. He's had like 5 or 10 number one records. And it's like, this guy started, he was so humble. He was 15 years old. Now he's like probably 26, 27. And he just went on the journey. He knew when his time was, and he went in and he did it. And it was just like, I always tell people, you just got to stick through it. You got to stick around, And when I first signed him, it wasn't working for him. It took him like a few years for it really to like connect. And he's just like, it's such a fun story for me.
That's a brilliant story.
Yeah. And I've been fortunate enough to have that a few different times in my life with people. And it was so cool because I had that experience, and we're all, to pay it forward is just...
Yeah, the intern applications to the Benny Blanco School of Music just went through the roof. Like now the amount Reed's gonna get hit up this whole week, and dude, I love that. No, it's beautiful to hear that, and also what I love about that message is when your mentor throws your hard drive outside the window, like it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm never going back.
Yeah,
he's crazy. Like I'm never going back. Yeah. It's like whiplash.
Oh yeah,
right. Like
that was my life. I was cleaning toilets with a toothbrush. Like that was my real life.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of when you were describing it. I felt exactly like that. I'm thinking, but how do you show up again and recognize this value? Because I think now we're in a place as well where it's like if something like that happened, we'd be like, oh no, get out of there. It's
I know. It did change a little bit. Like
you wouldn't do that. That's what I mean. You wouldn't throw someone's hard drive.
No, I would never do those type of things. I'm just like not that type of person. I'm not like a yelling person. I'm not like it's just like that's not my way of communication. Like if I was like sad about something, I'd be like, man, I think it's like probably almost worse. Like I'd be like, why did you do that? You know what I mean?
I go quiet.
Yeah. Or I'd be like, if you're ever like in an argument in a relationship, like I'm not a yeller. I'm like oh man, like I wish it was different. And I like can't even find the words usually at the beginning. And I think that's how I am. And I think like I really learned that you don't have to do that stuff. It worked for me. It got me to where I am, but it's like you can be really positive. You can be a good influence on someone. You don't have to like, you can be hard on someone. Like I'm definitely like, I was definitely hard on the guy I was talking about, Blake. I was tough on him, but I was never like, I would never be mean. I would never like, there's no reason to do that. And what made me keep going back, I don't know, sheer just will and drive like that. That's like, I just was like, that's what they're trying to do. They want me to quit. They want me to, and like, I don't know. I don't know why I do it. And I wonder, sometimes I sit in bed and I'm like, why am I still working like so hard? Like I still work like I've never done a thing in my life. Like I'm still wake up every morning. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to do this. And then I swear I'm going to get this thing. And that's why I try to do different things that I'm not necessarily great at not that I'm not great at, but that I don't have, in music, I can go in, I can work with anyone, I can do this. But like making a cookbook, being in a TV show, I've never done these things. So it's like very interesting to me to start at the bottom again and just like try to work my way up.
Yeah.
It's fun. I love the climb. Like, that's my favorite part about life.
Yeah.
Even everything, like in a relationship, when you meet that person at the very beginning, and it's like, oh, I gotta like make my way into their heart, and they have to make their way into mine. And it's just all about, I don't know, getting there is always the best. And then when you're there, I'm just like, all right. What else can I want to get some, you know what I mean? Like, so when you're like, you do the music stuff and you get there and you're like, I think the only thing where you get there and it just keeps getting better is in a relationship with someone. I think that's like the only time you get there and you're like, okay, this is cool. Like, but when every other time I'm just like, okay, cool. Like, let's go.
What do you think makes relationships different that makes you feel that way as opposed to music?
Because
or anything else, any other achievement, not music.
Well, I've never been in a relationship the way that I've been in one with music because it's been like a 30-year relationship. So I have no idea what happens 30 years from now in a relationship. But I just feel like in a relationship is like all these other things I'm doing. There's so many like tentacles. Like, it's like you go this way and then you guys explore that together. And you're exploring so many, it's basically anything I would explore in my life, I'm exploring with a partner. And so it's like figuring out, like, you guys are like figuring out things together. And it's so cool when you have like a partner that, like, I don't know, like I just get the feeling like it's awesome when you can have a partner that you look at and it's like the end of the day and you're like, oh, what did you do today? And they tell you and you're like, that's so tight. Like, and you're like, I want to do more. Like, when you can feed off of each other and just keep growing together, it's like every day is a new experience and you guys are like facing different things together. And it's, I don't know, it's cool. And I always tell my friend, I was just talking to my friend yesterday about this. I was like, you always have to keep your work and life balance. And I was like, because you can feel it in the music and art if you don't have love or you don't have something. So I always tell them, I always feel that it's just like this. I have like rules, like every day, like I only work till like a certain time. I make sure like cooking is very important to me and therapeutic. So I make sure I do that. Like, it's like Xanax to me. Like I have like all my things that I have to do to make that balance, because I do push myself. I shove my head through that wall, just that drywall, if I had to. But at the same time, I try to do all the things. It's like, okay, like it's like every Sunday I see my mom, no matter what, every single Sunday at the exact same time. It doesn't matter if I like stay up all night, I'll just go right into seeing her. And it's just like, we have like a ritual we do. And then I have like my ritual where I go and get my groceries at the farmer's market every weekend. And there's just all these things that help keep you on track and grounded so you can keep doing what you're doing, you know? I mean, I'm sure you have things like that for yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, mine's similar. I call my mom at the same time every week because she's back in London, where I was born and raised. And so I have the same time I call her on the weekend. And there's certain things that have to be done that way. And same with you. And, I have a certain time as well that I switch off from work and I'm not looking at my phone. I have a time in the morning. I have like 3 hours of being awake before I'm doing any work. And I have to take that time for myself. But what's interesting about what you're saying is that there's a myth, obviously, that the broken-hearted artist can pour into the music, but you're actually saying that if you have love in your life, that can also be felt through music.
Yeah, I think that at times it's good to have a broken heart, but it's also good. There's a time and place for everything. What time you wake up?
I wake up now at 5:30 a.m.
What time do you wake up before?
Usually it was like, this year has been different. This year I've been really prioritizing 5:30, but up until last year, it's probably like 6 to 6:30.
And what time do you go to bed?
I go to bed at like 9 p.m. now.
Really?
Yeah, I love my 8 hours of sleep. So if I get into bed at 9, I'll be out by 9:15.
Okay.
And then if I wake up at 5:30, I've had like 8 hours and 15 minutes of sleep. Like, it's
What are you doing? What are you doing in those first 3 hours?
Meditating for a lot of it. So I'll wake up at 5:30. I'll be ready to sit down for meditation by like 5:45. I'll meditate for an hour and a half. And then 7:15, I'll go for a hike or go to the gym, or usually a hike or the gym from 7:15 till about 8:15, 8:30, get ready. And then 9 a.m. I'll take my first emails, meetings, all that kind of stuff. So I think you came at 10 today. So
yeah. Hour and a half.
11.
Hour and a half that's a good meditation. Hour and a half. How do you even stay focused?
Well, I think it's a good question. And I always say to people that when I started, it wasn't 1.5 hours. Like you start up with doing like 7 minutes, and then 20 minutes, and then 40 minutes. And what I found was just in the same way as if you go to a trainer at the gym, you'd hope that they work out more than you. So as someone who teaches meditation and helps people with mindfulness, I believe that as a trainer and as a coach, I have to do it for more time and deeper time, because otherwise, if I'm only doing it for 7 minutes and I'm mentoring you and you're only doing it for 7 minutes, then how will I ever have an experience to guide you deeper? And so I've been doing that since I was 18 now. So it's been a long time. And when I was a monk for 3 years, it was longer. And that's where I got that deepest experience of practice for it. So I feel like if I didn't have those 3 years of going really deep into the practice, I may not have the focus I have today.
You were a monk?
For 3 years, yeah.
Like a real monk?
A real monk, yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I've never met a monk.
I'll have to show you pictures.
I've never even met a monk.
Yeah, I'll have to show you. I'm not anymore, but yeah.
How long?
So you still haven't met a monk.
When was this?
So this was 2010 to 2013, and I was a monk across India, UK, and Europe. I traveled between the three, and I had a shaved head. I wore robes. I slept on the floor. We meditated for like 4 to 8 hours sometimes a day, and so it was a deeper practice. Yeah,
standard 8 hours. Standard 8-hour meditation is crazy. When do you do anything else?
Well, sometimes you didn't. That was the point. Like,
an 8-hour meditation is wild.
Yeah,
isn't that sleeping?
Yeah. I mean, you can count it as the same. That we sleep for 8 hours. So.
Yeah, the hardest part for me with meditating is that I instantly fall asleep.
Good.
I can fall asleep very easily.
So I'll tell you why, though. The reason why that happens during meditation or any practice of that sort is your body and mind are finally coming into sync. And so it's your body saying, I need sleep right now.
Yeah.
And so if you're falling asleep during meditation, it's not a bad thing. It's just you've literally, because what's happening when you're not falling asleep is your mind saying, we got to do more. We got to do more. And then finally, when you become present, you fall asleep because your body's saying, I've done enough today.
Oh. Wait, where do you do these meditations?
I have a little meditation room. I'll take you to afterwards at our home. Yeah,
I want to do a meditation with you.
All right, we'll do it. Yeah.
I want to learn. I've done it. There was like a time in my life when I was going through a rough patch, and then like, I was going to therapy and I was meditating and stuff, and it actually helped me so much.
Yeah, wow.
It helped me.
What was that during? What were you going through?
When everything first started happening for me all at once, it was like really overwhelming. I was, for the first like year or two, I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then like it really hit me because, so many different responsibilities and people asking you for money. And like, I just didn't grow up in a way like I didn't even imagine, I was young when I made it. So I was like, I didn't even realize about like money. And then I'm like, oh my God, I have this, what do I do with it? Like, and then it's like, I have all this success and people need things from me and people want, and it was just too much. And where I grew up, like, I didn't go to like therapy as a kid. I didn't know about any of that. I didn't know what anxiety was. I thought like I was like, oh, the room spins for everyone when you like sit down and you're like doing something. Yeah, there were so many things I didn't understand, and I thought it was just my body, and I never talked to anyone about it. And I was like, oh, there were just things like I learned to live with. And I just remember exactly where I was. I was like walking in to get a new cell phone. I lost my mind, and I just couldn't handle it anymore. And I remember like a week later, I went home to Virginia where my mom was living at the time, and I remember I was like in the bathroom, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I had this feeling, like this crazy feeling of anxiety that was like crippling. And it was like, I couldn't do anything. And I was just like, I was like in the bathtub, and I remember like calling for mom. I was crying, and I was like, I don't know. I can't do this. I don't know what to do. I can't even explain the feel. I didn't know how to articulate the words. I was like, I can't even explain what I'm feeling to you. I feel like I'm going crazy. And, in my family, there's some people have some issues, and I was always scared of myself falling into some similar things that are in my family, that run in my family. And I just remember somebody was somebody got me to go to therapy, and I met this guy, and he's my therapist today, still to this day. He's been my therapist for almost 20 years. And I remember like I first went there and I had like all these things. I was like, I used to like go and I'd have to like hold my head like this. And I was like, well, I can't let go of my arm because if I let go of my arm, my neck's going to fall off and I'm going to be paralyzed. Like I had like like I was so in deep and I never thought I was going to get out. And I remember I used to go 6 days a week, and then it was like 3 days a week. Then it was 2 days. Then it was one. And it was CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's like kind of like a type of therapy where you use your words. And it's not, I didn't want to do medicine. And I didn't, because I also had in my family, there's some drug abuse and stuff. And I was like, I don't want to do this with medicine. I want to figure out how to do it the right way. And at that time I wasn't. Now I'm like a workout fanatic. That's like my new meditation.
Nice.
But before that, I was like, well, how do I do this? And I started, my therapist recommended meditation to me, and he had this really easy way of doing it. And it was so easy. And it wasn't even like anything specific. He was like, just, he would just like, it was the most basic form of meditation. I would do it either with a spoken word thing or just like, he'd be like, find the most calming music you like. And he would just be like, no matter what, just every day, he was like, for 20 to 30 minutes, just sit down, put a pillow on your head, try not to be too comfy where you'll fall asleep, set a timer, and just do it. And I remember doing it, and at first it was impossible. When I was like in my shit, it was impossible. And then eventually I started like looking forward to that time every day.
Yeah.
And it really just helped me a lot. And then like in 2018, and then I got like, it was probably like a year or so and this was probably 2009, maybe this was happening. And then I like got back on track and everything was great. And then in 2018, I really like working out became like my new meditation.
Oh, wow.
Like, and it was just like, I have to do it. And it was so funny because I went so many years without doing it. And I'm sure in your life, you went years without doing meditation. And now like, what happens if you randomly do you ever miss one ever? Like, just like, if you're sick,
I'll catch up. I won't. Yeah, I don't meditate at 5:30 every day. Like it's not. I can't keep that up because I'm on planes. We're traveling. Like our lifestyles don't allow it, and so I will be meditating in the evening.
But like, what happens?
The quality. Well, I find that for me, the quality dips. So the last week was one of those weeks. I had like 3 massively late nights in a row on the weekend because of events and parties and things that I was going to. And I couldn't wake up early. And then I still had a full day of work. And then in the evening, I was catching up with it. And I found that I didn't have the time and space that I need in order to feel really aligned. And what I mean by that is I can still operate. No one else will really notice the difference, but I notice the difference where I'm like, I feel like I have less energy today. I feel like I have less clarity today. And I feel like I'm not as aligned is the best word I can think of as I like to be. And so it doesn't really affect anyone else, but it does affect me. And I know what level I can raise to, which is what you're probably saying when you're working out. Like when you miss a day of working out, how do you feel now?
Yeah. I thought of something when you were saying.
Yeah, please.
So you're seen as like, this guy who's like mindfulness, health, this like aren't you sometimes, do you feel like I have to be so perfect all the time?
It's so interesting you say that, Benny. I used to think that when I started out that's what I had to be. And then I've let go of that pressure personally. Like I let go of that. And I'm just, like I'm saying to you now, I don't wake up every day at 5:45 to meditate. Sometimes I'm meditating on planes, in Ubers, on trains. Sometimes I'm doing it while I'm falling asleep. Like I'm okay with opening up about that because to me, that I hope, it's the truth. B, I hope that actually helps people realize that they don't have to have the perfect regime every single day because I used to think that and all I did was put more pressure on myself. Like I'd stress myself out. So I'm more comfortable today saying, I believe in meditation. I value mindfulness. I value all these things, but it doesn't look perfect in my life. And it won't in yours either. And it doesn't in anyone's. Whoever's life we think it looks perfect in is a myth.
Yeah, sometimes you get upset. Like if you get, like you're like a guy who's like not allowed to get upset. Like something happens. Like I find that sometimes.
What do you know, Benny? What are you trying to say?
Yeah, exactly. No, I find sometimes in work, like, when you get to the top of like your field, people are only expecting like a perfect like if you're like, say you're like LeBron James, like if you score like 20 instead of like 40 in the game, they're like, oh, what's happening to LeBron? And it's this pressure that I know exists for people, and I just wanted to know.
I definitely have felt that pressure, and I think I've removed it from myself. And that's what I realized, that ultimately it was a pressure I was putting on myself. It wasn't actually from anyone else. It was me thinking. Whereas if I was just honest and transparent and authentic with people, then all of a sudden the pressure's off.
Yeah.
And I can also be a human because I am one.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much more of a joy in embracing our imperfections and flaws and recognizing that. It's even with coaching people, by the way, and I'm sure you feel this with music, like when you working with a artist to produce their album is like what I do with coaching clients. So coaching clients come to me and say, hey, can we solve this problem? Whatever else it may be. Someone's coming to you saying, hey, Benny, can you make this album with me? And before I used to think, God, if I don't say something profound in the first hour of meeting someone, then they're not going to think I'm worthy or valuable. Yeah. And I started to realize, I was like, that blocked me from saying something worthy.
Yeah.
It didn't allow me to be a channel or a vessel. Yeah. I was now forcing some manufactured version.
Yeah.
And even if I did, now I was just setting myself up for more pressure every time we met, rather than just having a flowing exchange with someone. How do you feel like when an artist comes and says, hey, Benny, I want you to produce my whole album? Where was the time it switched from pressure to just flow?
I never had pressure because I don't care.
Yeah.
Because I treat every experience, like I'll be like this. Some people, when you get in the studio, there's something, or you're on a TV set, or you're on here, they're just like, oh, we got to get it all done. We have to get this done today. We have to. For me, I'm just as happy if we were to come in. Like if I came into this podcast today and you're like, hey, I'm sorry, like the equipment's not working, then I'd be like, oh, let's just like chill, walk around your thing, because that's what was meant to happen that day. And I'm not stressing, because you know what? Eventually we'll get like an interview, or eventually we'll get a song, or, I'm a big like procrastinator in work. Like when someone comes over, I'm like, you like to eat? What do you want to eat? You want to eat something? I'll eat something. All that stuff is part of it. It's part of what's going to happen later. You know what I'm saying? Or you like, let's say you have a client, someone like you're trying to get to the bottom or the root of a problem. You're going to have to disarm them and get them to chill.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's not going to happen through anything else. What's your, do you have a setup process for every person, or do you really go with the flow with each individual?
This stuff got caffeine in it?
It has natural caffeine from tea.
I'll take a sip of it.
Yeah.
It's green tea. Green tea is really caffeinated, right?
Yeah, it's natural.
You drink caffeine?
I only in the tea form.
Only in the tea form.
Yeah.
I
so
like that.
I don't
only
drink
in the tea form.
As in, like, I drink herbal tea and I drink this tea, but I don't.
That's good.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. My wife and I put it together. It's all natural.
Go buy his drink. How'd you come up with the name?
It stands for Just You and I. So it was a way of trying to bring people together through sharing a moment. How's the caffeine hitting? Is it all right?
I'm taking little
sips.
I don't drink caffeine at all.
Yeah. Neither do I, apart from tea. So
yeah, I don't drink. I'm not like a caffeine person. I wake up and I'm like ready to rip.
Me too.
I wake up, I like pop out of bed.
What time do you wake up?
Early.
Yeah?
Yeah, like 6. Usually 6:10 to 6:30.
Yeah. What gets you in the creative zone? Like you're always like cooking. Like let's talk about open wide for a second. Like creativity, I think people look at you and they think, oh, he's musically creative, but then the rest of his life must be. Yeah. But no, it's like you're creative in cooking, you're creative in music. Obviously, you're talking about relationships can be creative too. Like, is it just something that was cooking always a passion?
Yeah, it's just like, do you cook at all or no?
So I'm the exact opposite. Kitchens and cooking scares me. My wife is a plant-based chef and recipe developer.
Really? Oh my God.
Yeah, this is all she does.
What has she always cooked?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
She's loved it since she was, and she's a dietitian and nutritionist as well.
What's her name?
Radhi. Radhi's her name. Radhi. Radhi.
And okay.
Yeah.
I got to see it. I'm obsessed with all that. One of my friends, the person who I wrote my book with, her name's Jess. She has she's predominantly like a plant-based chef, and she worked for Martha Stewart for years, and she's incredible. And I it's funny, like my books are always crazy. I eat very healthy unless I'm being like a naughty boy.
What's naughty? How bad's naughty?
Oh, naughty is like you wake up and there's crumbs and glaze all over you. You don't even know what it is. But mostly I'm like during the week, because I lost a lot of weight. I lost like 50 pounds.
Wow. Consciously?
Yes. Yeah. Now, honestly, at the beginning, I was going into a weight loss challenge because my brother had gained a bunch of weight. And then when I went and we like did the DEXA scan thing, I was 33% body fat. And I was like, well, am I fat? And I just didn't even know that I was being unhealthy. And then like, that's when I started working out and I got obsessed with it. And it was like, I wasn't necessarily trying to lose weight, but then like once I did, I was like, whoa, this is cool. And I'm one of those people now, like when I lost the first weight, it wasn't trying to lose weight. It was just like trying to be healthy. And then I felt like the feeling every time I went to the gym. I was like, whoa, I have no anxiety like after, and I'm not thinking about anything else except like what's happening. And that was very rare for me. So I was like, I got to chase this feeling. And then now I like, me and my friends, we do like little like weight loss challenges. We're like, okay, whoever can lose the most weight in like 1 month or whoever can do this. I like to challenge my body and
out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. I like to just like push myself in any way possible. But yeah, no, I do you eat pretty healthy?
Yeah, very, yeah.
Well, because of her, right?
Because of her.
If otherwise you'd be like.
Before I met her, it was like pizzas at midnight, burgers, fries. Yeah. Like, that's my favorite food.
What are you guys eating today?
Obviously,
like, what'd you eat today?
What did I have in the morning? I had like avocado, mushroom toast in the morning.
And did you make it or she did?
No, she did. Yeah.
So if she's not in town, do you
then
ever cook?
I'm ordering in, but I'm ordering healthy.
You're ordering healthy because you're scared she might be filming you or watching.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually, I'll say to my team, I'll be like, guys, just so you know, let's order this because my wife's not around. Yeah, no.
Yeah. You'll be a little naughty.
She's been a good influence on me because before I met her, I was addicted to sugar. Like I was addicted to chocolates and
some
ice
people
creams.
have that.
I had a massive, because of my mom.
Yeah, I don't have this. I don't have the sweet tooth.
That's lucky, man. That's one of the worst.
I'd much rather like a huge slice of bread or a taco. I really like one bite of a dessert. Like I always want.
You're like my wife. That's
I always want one bite. Like at the end of the day, like I'll always have like a date or something or like a piece of fruit. Like I love that, but like I don't like I don't know, like occasionally like a cookie or something if it's not too sweet. I don't like really sweet things. They make my stomach hurt.
Right.
So I like, there's a few, like I like, what's that thing when it's like meringue, pavlova.
Right.
Because it's not too sweet and it's like light. Pavlova makes me.
How did you curb your cravings for things you love? Like when you're doing a challenge, how do you curb your cravings?
I just shut it off. I love a challenge.
Right.
Just any challenge. If someone's like, I bet you can't walk 25 miles right now. I'm like, yes, I can. And I'll do it. Like, I love that feeling of doing something.
And you have a group of people that you do.
I do it with my friends.
Yeah.
I work out with my friends. If I didn't have a trainer, I only pay. The only reason I see a trainer is because I'm so crazy that would be like, oh, I can't waste the money. Like, so I gotta go. But if it was just up to me, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to do it. It's just that someone's, or my friends are like, let's go to the gym. We got to go together and we work out together. And I like, coming back to food, I like anything. I love community. I love hosting. I love like, there's nothing better to me than like creating like an experience for people. I don't care what the medium is, like creating some experience where like when someone leaves, they're just like, whoa. And they're telling all their friends. And like, for me, it's just like this is like, looking to give someone an orgasm face at all times, like every moment, like because that's what it is. It's when someone tastes your food, they just like open their mouth and they put it in. You just want them to be like, like you just want that feeling that when someone plays a song, you want them to be like, oh my God, that thing is crazy. Like after you like change someone's life and they can do a meditation where they can like put their leg behind their head. They're just like, oh, thank you. You brought me to a higher sense of being. Like it's that's what we're looking for.
Yes.
And I'm always looking to make my friends happy. I'm always, if someone comes to my house and they have like, a hamburger and they're like, I love this. This is my favorite hamburger. I know that. So then I'm thinking like the next time they come, I'm like, oh, I'm going to like make sure they have that for them. And my grandma, when I was a kid, one of my grandmas, she was not wealthy by any means. She grew up in it, like, her place was in Section 8 housing, and we would go visit her. And she had a lot of grandkids. And if we went over there and one time we like had a Junie and we were like, we love this, it would be there every time we ever went. And she had so many grandkids. So everyone had every single thing. And she would, she wouldn't eat for the week to make sure that like everyone had their things. And because it made her so happy, the joy she would have when everyone was coming in and all the things were there. We'd be like, oh, she has this. And that's what I like to do. And I love to create, like, whether it's like the perfect napkin, the perfect like meal, the perfect music playing at the same time. Like, and that's what I did with this book. I was like trying to teach people how to have like the perfect dinner party.
That's brilliant.
Because I was like, okay, some people, they might not know what to do. Like, you're nervous in the kitchen. This book is going to make it so like surefire way. You want something easy that looks good? Great. You want to have a dinner party? Like, do you know what type of wine to serve? I don't know. Do you want to smoke weed with your people? Does weed make you anxious? Who knows? Is it midnight and you want everyone to leave because you got to wake up at 5:30 the next day, but you still want them to love you? I'm going to teach you how to kick them out, And it's just like,
I love that.
It's that whole thing. And it's just like that moment of just like getting a bunch of people together. And I love getting the people together that don't necessarily go together.
Yeah.
And it's like someone is like a musician and they're sitting next to a man who wrote a book. And I mean, one time we were at my house and I remember I was, my mother was sitting here and SZA was sitting here, and a man on the other side actually makes rocket ships that go to space. And to me, it was just so cool to see them all talking and not caring about, what was going on. And there was no egos, and everyone's just having a good time. And food is like the best social lubricant in the world because it's like you can immediately talk about something. You're like, oh, you like food? It's just like the automatic conversation starter.
Yeah. Next time you come over, we're going to have to do food for sure because it's a big love language for my wife. She always says that's her love language.
I want to cook with her.
She wants to, you guys would have a blast. She loves cooking, creating recipes, and also same as you, creating community. And it's actually funny you say that. I'm trying to think of a book that you just reminded me of that was based on a restaurant that did that. And they recently converted it. It became 11 Madison Park in New York. And it was a restaurant that tried to give that level of care that you feel in a home.
Yeah.
And so open wide your book. I love that it's not just a cookbook. I love that it's
about
how to build community. And
all of that.
Because I think that's what people miss out on, right? We think that hosting is about all the fancy stuff. And it's like, it isn't. It's
not about any of that. The food, my godfather always said this thing. He would always say, when I was a kid, I never even understood it, but I so understand it now. He always used to say, we'd always figure out where we were going to dinner. And he goes, it doesn't matter. It's about the wrap.
Yeah.
And we were like, what do you mean? He's like, it's just about the wrap. He's like, the only thing, it's just to get everyone together. If the food's great, that's awesome. But it's about hanging with your friends, laughing till you cry, falling in love with someone. I've had the opportunity to have dinners where like so many things have happened to people. Someone's found the person they date. Somebody's, started a company. Somebody's laughed so hard they cry, and that's what I'm trying to do. And I love, do you have dinners with people? And
it's one of my favorite things to host as well. Yeah.
It's my favorite thing to do. I don't want to go out to a nightclub.
No,
I want to like sit at home with my friends till 2 a.m. Well, for you can't do that.
I can do that.
Now, what happens? What happens if you stay up late? Do you just self-combust? You combust?
No, not at all, man. I can stay up late. I just choose not to always do it because I love sleep.
Okay, when you were out late this weekend, what time were you out?
Yeah, probably getting to bed around 1 or 2.
Okay, and then what time do you sleep till?
Oh no, the problem was I was still waking up because my body clock's so wired that I was still up at the same time.
No matter what, I wake up at like 6 a.m.
That's what I mean,
no matter when I go to bed.
Yeah.
I don't go to bed as early as you though.
Yeah.
I'm like if in my dream world I go to bed at like 11:30, 12,
Right.
and then I wake up at like
in real world
6:30. And then on the weekends I really don't sleep a lot. But I don't need a ton of sleep. But
That's
I know
good,
I'm
man.
sure you're going to say that's terrible for you.
No, not at all, man. I'm not going to say anything.